As the Money Burns is an original podcast by Nikki Woodard. Based on historical research, this is a deep exploration into what happened to a set of actual heirs and heiresses to some of America's most famous fortunes when the Great Depression hits. Each episode has 3 primary sections. Section 1 is a narrative story. Section 2 goes deeper into the historical facts. Section 3 focuses on contemporary, emotional, and personal connections. Story recap. Barbara Hutton celebrates her 21st birthday in grand style, while newly divorced Mary McCormick confronts a female reporter. Now back to As the Money Burns. Birthday Wish, Part 1 of 2. Another heiress turns 21, thus gaining part of her fortune. But what the richest girl wants most horrifies her mother. Section 1. Story. Part 1 of 2. As the clock strikes midnight, another heiress comes into a portion of her fortune. After months of newspaper speculation, many have waited for the day when the richest girl in the world officially turns 21. Wednesday, November 22nd, 1933, New York. The morning starts off like every other day. Nothing seems to have magically changed overnight. Or has it? Luckily, so far things are relatively quiet at the limestone Duke Mansion at the northeast corner of 78th Street and 5th Avenue, across from Central Park. Tall, no longer awkward heiress Doris Duke wants to be close to the memory of her father on this significant birthday. This is the same mansion where Buck Duke passed away 8 years earlier. At the zenith of his career, Buck felt friendless. However, once Doris was born, he delighted in every moment spent with her. Buck left a large portion of his fortune to the Duke Endowment, and another large portion to his only child, Doris. The details of that estate recently made public in the battle for taxes before the Supreme Court in October 1933. But those were the 1925 amounts, and no one knows the true aftermath of the 1929 Wall Street crash. But when does that ever stop speculation? Especially when there is so much that can be readily assessed. Large news reports list her known properties as the Manhattan Mansion, the 5,000-acre Duke Farms in New Jersey, Rough Point Cottage in Newport, and possibly 2 imaginary secret locations in North Carolina. There are mentions of an extensive art collection, multiple vehicles, and a private rail car. Then there is the endless open speculation on the sum total of the fortune, 10 million up to 101 million, averaging between 30 and 50 million. The 2025 equivalents of 250 million up to 2.5 billion, averaging between 749.5 million to 1.25 billion. Doled out in 3 payments, Doris will receive the other 2 portions at age 25 and 30. But more than money, Doris takes after her father in other significant ways. Despite now legally an adult, Doris is still bound by the social dictates against a truly financially independent woman. Until marriage, her socially ambitious mother, Nanaline Duke, will remain a close financial advisor. Over breakfast, Nanaline notices an increasingly assertive Doris mulling over her options. Next month, Doris will take her board positions at the Duke Endowment and Duke University, as well as some upcoming property management meetings, all the things that have remained tightly under Nanaline's domain. The so far unattached Doris contemplates other lifestyle options, like getting a more formal university education, to Nanaline's horror. Already, Doris relishes the secret month she went undercover as a regular student at Duke University, even living in an all-girl dorm. She almost blew her poor girl cover by over donating nearly $5 instead of the expected 50-cent contribution for a party. That would be donating $124 instead of the expected $12.50 contribution today. The girls, thinking Doris was strapped, gave her the money right back. Nanaline abhors the idea of an educated woman, especially if Doris opts to become a teacher or some other vocation. Nanaline married Buck to secure a fortune and ensure no such humiliation would ever be needed. Plus, Doris is likely to fall for some undesirable academic or musician if left with too much freedom to mingle amongst more common folk. Doris is much too colorblind and class-blind, like her father. The one thing Nanaline and Doris do agree on is no lavish birthday party, as they grow concerned over the ever-present watchful eyes of those on the outside. Doris felt fellow heiress, the recently married Princess Barbara Hutton Divani's birthday party was too much spectacle. However, in comparison, Doris also realizes how an unattached young woman is still shackled by supervision and not truly independent. Truthfully, Doris would prefer to go to a jazz club or the movies if she could go unnoticed and untailed. But that would be unlikely on today of all days. The well-documented, always chaperoned Doris is never truly alone. When direct threats were sent to Newport, security measures increased to armed guards. On certain bold days, Doris likes to walk around Fifth and Park Avenues while her Duesenberg town car trails closely behind her. Typically her mother Nanaline, older brother Walker Inman, or longtime French governess Jenny Renaud accompanied Doris. Sadly, on October 31st, 1933, her beloved Jenny retired with a generous trust fund provided by Doris. For today, Doris enjoys her favorite bodyguards, two Great Danes, 150 pounds each, both gentle and protective. Throughout the morning, many send their congratulations over phone calls. After breakfast, Doris goes about her regular, rather ordinary daily routine. She is devoted to her study of cultural arts, French, Italian, piano lessons. But without Jenny as a companion, it is rather lonely. Restlessness permeates the air. Flustered, Nanaline thinks fast on her feet. She really only has one choice. After a big, resolute sigh, she grits her teeth and grabs her purse. Acting nonplussed, Nanaline slips into a music store and with critical judgment looks at the selection of various large-size instruments. Doris has experimented with many musical instruments over the years, her first being a harp. But this one is a whole other matter. Cringing in disbelief as Nanaline stares at the accordions. She musters her strength, then picks one of the more expensive ghastly wheezers and gives instructions for immediate delivery. Bored, Doris roams around the mansion, down the curved balustrade, through the lofty vestibule, towards the iron grille doors, when she sees a large present waiting with the note, "Many happy returns of the day, from Mama." Doris hesitates when Nanaline passes by her and nods. Doris giddily grabs the package and runs to her music room. She rips through the box and lifts the large, bulky musical instrument. She straps it onto her body and dances in glee as she pretends to play magnificently to a crowd. Hopefully, Nanaline has curbed her daughter's restlessness, at least temporarily. Now, Nanaline must fight off any and all vultures circling for the kill. Yeah, kidnappers are a threat, but none are as risky as the fortune hunter who hunts through the heart and quite possibly the body. Doris might not fall for sweet nothings, but a good romp might make her head spin, especially if she inherited Buck's carnal appetites. Thus, to quell the abundant rumors and speculation over Doris's sizable wealth, discreet and discerning Nanaline has chosen on this day and occasion to grant a very rare interview. In the upstairs living room, dressed in dark green crepe with her dark brown hair casually brushed back, the petite Nanaline sips her tea with her unadorned hands. She smiles politely as she tries to deflect the more than obvious grandeur. She intends to replace the trifle mysterious allure with a boring and unostentatious lifestyle. For the first inquiry as to a party, Nanaline remarks, "I do not believe in parties in times like these." Nanaline loves to play off the frugality as appropriate. Throughout the conversation, she insists they lead a respectable and simple life, and that Doris is worth far less than others speculate. The mother's caution is more than understandable, but deceptive. Money-obsessed Nanaline attempted to build her own independent but equal fortune. Only the crash completely wiped hers out. Secretly, she plots to extract the Duke fortune and transfer it all to her son and Doris's half-brother, Walker. When questioned over the potential estate management, Nanaline dismisses the interest. After all, Doris is just a child. Whatever money she has had or will have has made absolutely no difference in her life. And instead, Nanaline presents a more composed, less exciting, studious daughter, and thus unappealing. But there is another interest that cannot be overlooked. As the interview continues, very clumsy music wheezes and groans in the background. Nanaline winces. It is none other than Doris's new obsession. Through a very clenched smile, Nanaline swallows her pride and feigns approval. An accordion. That's something to combine with the classics. Doris is learning to play one. She is crazy to try it. Adeptly, Nanaline avoids acknowledging Doris's other undesirable music interest, like hanging out in Harlem. Silently, Nanaline also disapproves of the press, noting how a more athletic Doris swims like a fish, rides horses proficiently, and likes winter sports. These unladylike activities might encourage methods of approach and seduction for those with intentions towards the vulnerable heiress. Nanaline further downplays her daughter's lack of ability in painting, music, or other gifts. She clearly states that her daughter has no particular talent. Realizing she might have gone a bit too far, Nanaline switches tactics, claiming Doris is popular enough and has many friends. But they are all modest and respectable. Many are married or engaged. None are the wild sort like flappers or the gin party types. Luckily, Nanaline is not asked about any current suitors for Doris. Nanaline reiterates how Doris is very simple and modest and rather ordinary, despite the fortune. She is just an everyday girl, and I'm proud of it. The mother applauds Doris's simple taste, rather conservative in dress and not into jewels, and thus reared in the tradition of thrift, with a good head of her own. By the end of the interview, Nanaline points out there are many misconceptions about their lifestyle. No golden bathtubs, no private rail cars, no gilded palaces, but at any rate, that's the truth. Hopefully, Nanaline has discouraged kidnappers, fortune hunters, and undesirable suitors. Only a fortune is still a fortune, and many are hovering about for a shot. After the interview, a few friends stop by while others call. Then more photographers appear as a crowd starts to form. A squad of officers are on hand to prevent unwanted guests slipping through. By forenoon, the Dukes decide to leave. Trained in the art of avoidance a la Garbo, Doris wears brown tortoiseshell glasses and fur coat as she steps out with family friend and divorcee Mrs. Horatio Seymour Shawnard, formerly Mary Elizabeth Joyce. Two Great Danes escort them towards the car as they are photographed. Hours later, another reporter checks out the deserted mansion. butlers, 2 chauffeurs, and 16 servants remain on hand. Meanwhile, Nanaline, Doris, and Mrs. Shawner drive to Duke Farms in Somerville, New Jersey, where the 5,000 acres provides plenty more privacy. There, more congratulatory calls will be received. For her birthday, Doris hands out cash gifts to servants. Then Doris gives 7 expensive dog collars to her Great Danes. As for another gift, Nanaline gives her daughter a diamond tiara. So much for the simple and unadorned. Right. By the end of the night, the small party watches a pre-release film in the in-home movie theater. Don't worry, another small celebration will be forthcoming for Monday night. But before then, some trouble is brewing. To be continued. Section 2, History and Historiography. This little birthday episode has really felt a bit out of my control. It seems every time I might have a nice, tidy little story. Nope, it has to grow exponentially. I don't know what to blame more, my mad research skills or my inability to not overshare. Every detail is so delicious and ties in with future aspects of our intricately woven tale. Now, I started all this research back in October 2013 and spent years with a timeline of main events, character development, and a nice package of research for a TV series premise. Then, in March 2020, I decided to go ahead and make a podcast. This switch turned plot points and characters into actual episodes. And with that, the need for more, much more information. Details, details, details. My brain has melted multiple times trying to get this birthday script manageable. Uh, I, uh, I think I'm starting to realize how big and massive this is all becoming. I mean, like, of course I knew Barbara Hutton and Doris Duke's 21st birthdays would be a turning point and a little past the halfway mark of the overall story. But as this would occur in later seasons, I hadn't gone much into the actual research. I anticipated like one episode to cover both at the same time, not 3 huge episodes plus another separate episode in between. As I began the podcast, the articles were few and far between, just enough to piecemeal an effective pace and rhythm. Kind of thrilling to finally be knee deep into the heart of the story. This is what I love to do. Overall, for these stories, the main facts are known, repeated often, and as such, the main plot points would not really be that much of a secret for anyone slightly curious. Multiple biographies, multiple documentaries, and countless references in articles and newspapers over the decades. But now I'm dealing with an avalanche of new and far more detailed information. Part of the increased attention ignites with Barbara Hutton and Prince Alexis Divani's scandalous affair, then marriage. That attention and hunger tries to shift to Doris, but to less success because she is far more private and without, at the current story moment, a consistent suitor. Though several are speculated, and one of whom will be her future first husband. And look at the kinds of sources. Beyond the basic ones continuously trying to estimate their wealth, and in Doris's case, the tabulation of known properties, there are the gossip and society columns trying to sort out romantic possibilities, friendships, and attendance at multiple high-profile events. There is even an article with an astrologer explaining the slight celestial differences between Barbara and Doris, who are roughly a little over a week apart and even born in the same city. For those into horoscopes, geographical coordinates can matter somewhat. By the way, there is a photo of Doris with Mrs. Shawner trying to escape to the car, which I will make available on social media. Now, I first learned about the accordion in June 2025 while working on Doris's San Francisco trip. one article put in holding to address when the time comes. Now the time comes, and so much more comes with it. Other new facts come up, certain known facts now shift, revealing new information, and then parallel events all coincide into one. Several details that all appear seemingly as separate information, and yet all tie together. Things as you will see more clearly when we get into the next episode. And of course, I always have to check whereabouts of select people too. The big factor for these two episodes is the discovery of Nanaline Duke's contradicting and dismissive interview, actually discussing her daughter, which is pure gold. The reporter, author is unknown, snippets found in two articles by two different small newspapers in Minnesota and South Carolina. Other similar articles appear after the party with tidbits by Maury Paul, otherwise known as Charlie Knickerbocker. A delicious discovery that made this episode run long, but could not be left out as none of the biographies reveal it. In fact, any seemingly new tidbit requires another scouring all older sources for any extra information and overlap. Stephanie Mansfield's Richest Girl in the World is the only biography to mention the accordion from Maury Paul's commentary. And the bio in relation to part 2 also covers the Great Danes, though in a different context, as well as the dinner party and kidnapping concerns. Ted Schwartz's Trust No One references a New York Times birthday article that recounts all the usual known details about Doris. The same Times article is also mentioned in Daddy's Duchess by Valentine and Mann. Too Rich by cousin Pony Duke gives the least information about this birthday. New biography, The Silver Swan by Sally Bingham, reveals the undercover Duke University tale. Otherwise, almost all biographies mention her 21st birthday and coming into the first portion of her wealth, with the same general information. Then there are some contradictions. A new revelation is that longtime French governess Jenny Renaud has retired, from none other than the Duke Endowment website. All previous sources have indicated that situation occurs at a future date in relation to another event. As well, I see that Nanaline had a conversation about Doris's restless behavior on her 21st birthday. This fact is revealed by another woman and confidant in her own personal papers. But that lady must have gotten the actual date wrong because the situation does not line up with the facts. Alas, it would have been way too perfect. I will address this anecdote again on the 22nd birthday, when the revelation is more likely to have occurred. We must keep in mind many witnesses or interviewees are often retelling things later, and thus their memory, especially when recounting a secondhand story, might get certain details mixed up. Soon I will be addressing a similar date correction in a near future episode regarding Marjorie Merriweather Post Hutton. By the way, both these incorrect dates appear within formal biographies. I can't reveal this particular full birthday revelation without giving away a future plot point. But in trying to sort everything out, I also learned of another plot twist. I'm telling you, it never ends. And that has become my recurring conundrum. Shall I give it all or cut something out? I have been having this problem since Barbara Hutton's honeymoon episode. As I try forcefully to keep the timeline and pace, I find myself with larger episodes with too much happening at once and a bit jarring and too chaotic. Since this information is not found within the biographies, I find it too hard to resist not sharing these way more rich and juicy anecdotal details. Things that perfectly illustrate points and flesh out assumptions. Already I've had to break my parallel modern timeline versus past timeline structure, as I realized I can't skip out on these newly resurfacing details lost in history decades ago, but out there and somewhat forgotten. I am trying now to stay tightly focused on a theme instead of a strict timeline, with overlapping events assigned to another episode. And this episode still got bloated to twice the normal size at almost 16 pages when most average 8 to 10. I had one dear friend try to help me narrow down things, and she affirmed my dilemma. Finally, just before recording the massive episode, I opted to split it into two. I do respect your time and concentration, thus, I want things easily consumable and digestible. I am definitely committed to a fixed main event timeline with chronological story and date. It's just that the journey there has become much more vivid, and for me, and I hope for you, more enjoyable. I hope you will bear with me as I try to get my stride back while I juggle the multiple obstacles to completion. Remember, I am doing everything on my own. I have a few friends and confidants that will listen to me talk out issues, but all the actual work is my own. AI will never be able to do this kind of original research. Recognizing random connections and tying things all back together, understanding trivial, flittering, nonsensical details that actually have more significance than at first glance. Overall, we already know these historical people's destinations. Those stories have been told endlessly. This retelling is a more microscopic exploration of the journeys on how they got there. Section 3: Contemporary and Personal Relevance. I guess it's time to make a confession. Over 2 years ago, I made a major life change as a result of certain life events, and with in mind the ever present biggest lesson of this podcast's underlying premise. I kept it somewhat secret because I value privacy, and having been a recent identity theft victim, needed to be extra cautious now and forever what is easily accessible in the public sphere. Still, something happened while working on this episode that illustrates this isn't just a history podcast or an intellectual exercise. It is a reflection of what I live and breathe as part of the human experience. Over 4 years now, I lost in a short period of time both my mother and oldest brother. Not to be confused with the older brother closer in age, whom I lost when I was 18. Shortly after the double death, my father's health began rapidly declining, and it became clear that I needed to be closer to him. When the last Powerball jackpot was nearing the billion mark, he saw me checking the lottery amounts and remarked if I won, I could get rid of him. And my reply? I didn't need to win to get rid of him. If I wanted to get rid of him, I would have never came back. I came back because I did want him around, both longer and healthier. Of course, I would like better finances so we could be more comfortable. But no, we're stuck together now, and that is not a problem to solve. You see, I have had a lot of loss in my life, long before and all throughout the making of this podcast. I know what I really value. I definitely have and am currently struggling financially. But what really matters to me are those I love. How can I not be acutely aware that the one thing the richest girl in the world can never buy and has no choice is that she did not get more time with her father, who died when she was 12. I did have the choice, and I did choose, and the rest will be what it may. History isn't just the past. As for the future, it's the choices we make today. It's so easy to envy those we perceive to be wealthy, but we also envy more those we perceive to live and be loved. In the end, who really envies whom more? Our heirs and heiresses' tales may surprise you. Due to the delayed release of this episode, I want to clarify that there is little difference between December 2025 and February 2026 inflation rates, so the numbers given are still relatively close, if not nearly exactly the same. A marginal increase of about 0.1%. That would mean on an estimated $1 million, roughly only $1,000 more, and for $1 billion, only $1 million in today's currency. Instagram has several accounts that occasionally mention various people within our podcast. It's always fun to check out accounts that show you pictures. One I regularly enjoy is Only Natural Diamonds. They recently featured some of the jewels and people mentioned in our podcast. Doris Duke and her gems have been most recently featured, including a tiara, Barbara Hutton's most famous jewels including her jade necklace, and signature pieces of Wallis Simpson, then the Duchess of Windsor. If you have interest in seeing certain buildings and getting more details, then check out Mansions of the Gilded Age by Gary Lawrance. Various Duke properties are featured often. And lastly, check out the amazing music collection of Past Perfect Vintage Music. Every one of our episodes features digitally restored music from the era. Enjoy the day and evening with tunes of a bygone era. Links available in the notes and transcript. If you enjoy As the Money Burns, then please share, like, and subscribe. Next, when we return to As the Money Burns. A big birthday with a big inheritance comes with more attention and trouble. So would a birthday party even be worth the risk? Until then. As the Money Burns is an original podcast written, produced, and voiced by Nikki Witter based on historical research. Archival music has been provided by Past Perfect Vintage Music. Check out their website at www.pastperfect.com. Please come visit us at As the Money Burns via GoodPods X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, now Meta, or Instagram. Transcripts, timeline, episode guide, and character bios are available at asthemoneyburns.com.